Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to learn managing users and messages using authentication system in Django. And following are the topics that we are going to discuss. Firstly, we will discuss some basic steps. Then we will understand what are messages, and then we will learn to create a sign up and a sign in form. So let's begin with the basic steps, and the most effective way to learn this topic is by using an example. So I will explain you these basic steps with the help of an example. So the first and the most important basic step is creation of a project and an app inside it. So here you can see that here I create a project with the name authentication project, and for creating this project I use the command Django-admin start project and the name of the project. And here you can see I also create a app inside it with the name authentication app. So for creating an app I use the command python manage.py start app and the name of the app. So after creating this project and app, you all know that we have to install this app inside the project directory. So I open my project directory, move to the settings.py file, and inside it under the installed app list, I add the name of my app, which is authentication app. After that, we have to define the URL of the app. So for this, we move to the urls.py file, which is located inside the project directory. So here our project directory is authentication project. So I move to this directory, and under this directory I have a file with the name urls.py. I open this file, and here you can see that I add the following code. So now I explain you this code, and here you can see that I include the path of the authentication app URL file. So now I close this. And one thing more, as we are dealing with the built-in authentication system, so we need the models also, and to get these models we have to run the migration command, and the command for this is python manage.py migrate. So with this we have learned the basic steps. Now we will move ahead and learn what are messages. So we are going to use the concept of messages in this application. So firstly we have to understand this messages. The message system offer a simple way of processing message for a certain user. A message is associated with a user, and there is no concept of expiration or a timestamp in this message. Basically, messages are used by the Django interface after a successful action or some error occurs. And for showing the message in the HTML file, we have a syntax. In two curly braces we have to pass the message. So with this we also understand the concept of messages. So now we will move ahead and learn to create the sign up form, or you can also say that the registration form. So firstly we will understand what is sign up or registration. Basically, sign up is an action to register yourself for a new account. And for creating this sign up form using the authentication system, we are going to use the user creation form, which is a built-in function inside the Django. So now I will explain you what is this user creation form. So in Django, to create a new user who can access your web application, we use this user creation form. Basically, it is a built-in module inherited from the model form class. So now I will show you an example and try to explain you how to create the sign up form or the registration form using this user creation form. Here I again open my Visual Studio Code where I write the code for the creation of this. So firstly we have to open the authentication app, and inside it we have to create a forms.py file. Now I open this file. After that, we have to import this class, which is user class, and I import this class from the django.contrib.auth.models, and I write it as import user. Then I have to import the user creation form, as I want to create a form by using this form. For this, I write a code from django.contrib.auth.forms import user creation form. So here you can see that here I create a form class with the name register form, and I extend this class by using the user creation form, which is already built in Django. And I define method class in this form class and assign the model as a user, and here I assign fields as a username, first name and email. So by default, the user creation form provides us only three fields. The first one is username, the second one is password 1, and the third one is password 2. Password 1 is used for the password and password 2 is used for the password confirmation. But I want to add some extra fields to this form. For this reason, I create this forms.py file, create a form class in this and extend this form by adding some additional fields such as first underscore name and the email. So now after creating this, we need a logic for the sign up form. For this reason, I have to move to the views.py file, as you know that all the logic is located inside the views.py file. So now I will explain you this. Firstly, I will show you what I import. So you have to import the render and HTTP response redirect class from the Django.shortcuts method. Then I import the form which I created. So I write a statement as a from dot forms import register form, as my name of the form which I created is register form. And I also need a messages. For this, I import it also from django.contrib import messages. Now I create a view for the sign up, or you can say that the registration view. So here you can see that firstly I create a view with the name registered for creating the sign up form. Then I use the if statement to check whether the method is post or not. And inside it, if the method is post, I create an instance having a registration form with the request post. Then I use the is valid method to check that is the form is valid or not. If the form is valid, I print the success message by using the messages.success method, and here you can see that I pass request and the message as the argument to this method. Then I save this form by using the save function, and in last I return the HTTP response redirect, which redirects to the sign in view on the successful sign in. If the request method is not post, it is get method, then the register form is rendered without request post. And in last we render the register.html file which we created with the dictionary context form which I mentioned as a FRM. So here you can see that. So this FRM came from here, which we define as a variable to the register form. So after creating this view, we need to map it with the URL. So you know that the urls.py file is located inside this app directory. So I open this file, and here firstly I import the view from writing the line as a from authentication app.views import the register view. So then I define the path for this register view. I write register as a view name and I assign name to this view as a register. So now we will need to define the front end for the sign up form. So for creating this, we have to create a template folder in the main project directory. So here you can see that I create a folder with the name templates. Then I install this folder in the settings.py file, and inside this folder I create the file with the name register.html to add the code for the sign up form. So now I will explain you this code. So here you can see that I use the form tag with the method post to create a form. Then I use this csrf underscore token for the security reasons, and then I use the for loop for the frm in forms, and I use the label underscore tag frm for showing the form and frm.errors for showing the error. So I use all three tags inside this for loop, and here in last I end this for loop. Addition to this, I also add a button for submission of the form, so I name it as a submit button. Then I close this form tag, and here I use the h2 heading and write heading as a, if you are already registered you have to click on the sign in link. So this sign in link is connected with the URL sign in. So later I will explain you this sign in URL, or you can say that this sign in view. So till now we have created the sign up form. So now I will execute my code and show you the output in the browser. So here you can see that we will get the sign up form like this. First we have a username field, then we have a first name field, then we have an email address, after that we have a password field, and in the last we have a password confirmation field. And here we have a submit button, and then it write a heading as, if you are already registered click on this sign in link. So let's create a user. So I create a user with the name Johnson, and I write first name as a John. Then I have to write the email address. So I write email as a johnson@mail.com, and then we have to set a password. So here I set a random password for rate. Then we have to add the same password which we set in a password field. So I enter the password, but I write it wrong to show you something. So when I click on the submit button, you can see that here it shows you an error. The two password fields didn't match. So if you are not putting something correct, it will show you the error. So now I again put the password, and this time I am writing the confirm password correctly. So now I click on the submit button. Click on the submit button, it will redirect to the sign in. I will later explain you this sign in. So with this we have learned to create the sign up form using the user creation form. So next we will learn to create the sign in form, or you can also say that the login form. So after sign up you all need to sign in. So firstly we will understand what is sign in. Sign in simply means to validate the user, like authentication of the user. It means that the user is identified and authenticated to access the website where he or she is already registered. So for this we are going to use the authentication form, which is a built-in form located inside the authentication system of a Django. So now I will explain you what is authentication form. Authentication form is the pre-built-in form present in the django.contrib.auth.forms, and this form is displayed on the Django sign-in page of the website, and the fields present inside it username and the password by default. So with this we understand what is authentication form. So now Django also provides us built-in view function for handling the login, and the two functions which Django provides us are the authenticate and login function, which are also part of the django.contrib.org. So now I will explain you first the authenticate function, as we are going to use this function for creation of the sign in form. So the set of credentials are verified using this function. It accepts username and password as a keyword parameter for the default case, and then if the credentials are accepted by the backend, each authentication backend is checked against them, and then a user object is returned, and the syntax for this is authenticate, and in parentheses we pass keyword argument as a request. It has a value as a none. Then we have a credentials. Here the request is the optional HTTP request which is passed on the authenticate method for the authentication backends. Addition to this, it returns none if the credentials are invalid for the backend, or if the backend raises a permission denied error. So with this we have learned the authenticate function. The next function which we are going to use for the sign in form is the login function. So we must proceed to the login if the user is authenticated successfully. So this reason we need the login function too. Basically, we use this function to log a user into a form view. Both the user object and an HTTP object are required, and the session framework of the Django is then used to save the user ID, and the syntax for the login function is login, and in parentheses we pass request as an argument, user as an argument, and backend keyword as a none. When a user login, the user ID and the authentication backend are saved in the user session, allowing that backend to get the user information upon the request. So now we will see an example and learn to create this login form, or you can say that the sign in form. So for this we have to define the logic for the sign in form. So I opens the views.py file first, and here I define the logic for the login view. So I create a function with the name user underscore sign in. Then I use the if statement. It says that if user is not authenticated, for this I use the is underscore authenticated field. I have already explained you in the last video. Then I again use the if statement which check the method is post or not. If the method is post, it will takes the authentication form and assign it to the FRM variable, and this authentication form take request and request.post as a argument. Then I use the is underscore valid function to check the validation of the form, and if the form is valid, it will take username and password, and I assign uname and user password variable to it. Then I create a variable with the name user, and I use the authenticate function which I explained you earlier. So in this function I pass the username and a password as the credentials. So this uname and user password are came from here. Then it check if the user is not none. Then it moves to the login function which has a request and the user as a argument. So this user is come from this authentication method. So on the successful login, it will show the message signed in successfully, and for this I use the messages.success method, and I pass request and the message as a argument to it. Then on the success, it will redirect to you to the home view. For this I use the HTTP response redirect method. Else, if the form is not post, it is a get form, it will simply take the authentication form without any request, and then it render to the signin.html page with the context as a form and FRM as a key. So here I create a dictionary with the key as a form and a value as FRM. This FRM came from here, and so here you can see that I use the if not statement. So if user is not authenticated, then it will do the following things. If the user is authenticated, it will redirect to the home view. So with this we learn the logic of the sign in form. So now we will learn to map it with the URL. So I move to the urls.py file. So here I again import the user underscore sign in view, and here I define the path of the user underscore sign in view, and I name this view URL as a sign in. So after defining the URL path also, we need the front end for the sign in process. So I open to the template folder again, and inside it I create a signin.html file. So I open this file. Now I will explain you this file. So here I again use the form tag of HTML with the method post CSRF underscore token for the security reason. Then I again use the label underscore tag FRM for the form render and the errors for the error in the for loop. And I end this for loop, and in last I add a button for the sign in. So I name it as a sign in button for the submission of the form. So here for printing the messages, we also have to add some code in the HTML file. So here I use the if statement which check if messages are there. It will use the for loop and take the message, and it will print it in the large text. So it will use messages dot tags. If messages dot tags are present, it will take the class as the message tags, and I end this if, and here you can see that I print the message which is passed from the view, and I close this large tag, and also I end the for loop and the if loop. So with this we learn to add the messages to the HTML page. So here it shows you the sign in form. It will show you the two fields, username and password. You have to enter the username and the password which you have entered while sign up. So I enter my username as a Johnson, then I enter my password. So here I write my password and I hit on a sign in. So it will move to the home page. I'll later explain you this home page. Please focus on this part which I highlighted. It show you the success message which we pass. It shows that signed in successfully. If you refresh this page, it will move. This message only shows once. So the remaining part of this page I will explain you later. So with this we have learned managing users and messages using the authentication system in Django, and in the next video we will learn creating profile and passwords.